Hello, early birds as usual. Anyway, hello guys. Happy Sunday. Since we've learned to greet ourselves happy everything now. So it's happy Sunday, happy new week. Yeah, sometime happy new month. Small time self, some people will be greeting you happy new hour. Since we have to find a way to reaffirm that we are happy. Happy Sunday to you all and welcome. Well, we still got house so that we won't cheat those who are going to be looking to come in at 4 p.m. You'll enjoy the sound of my voice whilst I enjoy having you guys come. Oh, I see. I can see that. So, okay. Ashibi, hi, how are you? Happy Sunday to you too. Aren't we all getting a little balmy in this our country? Anyway, by the way, you guys, this works best if we're having sort of like a feedback. I've had a lot to say during the course of the week. It would be nice to know what you guys think as well. You know, Yorubas have this funny proverb. They say, "Ogbon ologbon ni ki je ka pe agba ni were." Roughly translated, that simply means that it is the willingness of the elder to accept wisdom from different parts that renders him, how do you even translate that? Anyway, that helps him to escape being called a fool. So if you learn from Mr. A what you used to think was wisdom, no longer seems so wise, so you adjust it. So I'm happy to learn from you guys as well. Let me hear what you have to say. Like I said, I've had a whole lot to say. And this works better when I get your own feedback and I can then work with that. Sometimes I might learn something from you, maybe because I've been looking at the stuff from only one angle, and then I became blinded to sometimes our bias. Our biases have ways of blocking us to the truth sometimes. So yeah, I sometimes sit down, interrogate my own thoughts for hours, sometimes for weeks, years in some cases, but it still doesn't mean that I'm 100% right. Somebody else might be able to point me in another direction, and I'm happy to learn. So please, let me have your questions. You might seek clarifications as well. I'm happy to do that. Thank you very much. I reckon we're more or less ready now. I got a total of 4 questions that were, okay, I'm told that I'm trying to jump ahead of time, that there's still a few seconds before it's 4 o'clock. Timekeeper here is busy telling me, so don't worry. I shall wait for you to, like seriously, let's have your thoughts. I'm not a radio, much as I might drone on and on. I like the feedback. So now it's 4 o'clock. So here is the thing. I got a total of 4 questions that were sent in. There is one from some entity called Bright Live Media. It came in on the YouTube channel. And he goes, my question is, how can we change the system without changing the personnel running the system? Well, this question sounds pretty simple and straightforward, but the truth is that it's a pretty complicated question in the sense that it goes to the kernel of the Nigerian problem, in my own view. You cannot change the persons, at least not physically. You can only speak to changing mindsets. However, when I speak to changing the system, don't let it become so abstract that you're unable to relate to the concept of what I'm calling a system. What is the Nigerian system? Modern society, generally, anywhere all over the world, every country has citizens. Now, the entire governance systems of each country is designed for the promotion of the goodwill, a good life for the people referred to as citizens. It's a pretty, because we've copied everything from them. Even the concept of citizenship, as we all bandy it about, in my culture as a Yoruba man, as a freeborn, uncaptured in war, and not an indentured servant, even the king of my town had no power over me beyond those which he might have been given by law. And laws are not necessarily only the things you write down. But the creation of the Nigerian state and the illusion of democracy suggests that Nigeria is a state that has citizens, but citizenship does not work when equality is not established. Equality can also not be established when impunity rules in place of law. So when you talk to systems, you're talking about the system of impunity that currently governs Nigeria, the system that allows a judge to send protesters. Not just the judge. When you speak to the judge, it focuses attention on one man. No, the system works like this. An iniquitous policeman who is not upholding laws but enforcing the will of the rulers arrests a peaceful protester. He takes him to his jail cell in the police station. He harasses, he kills the ones he will kill. When he's tired of killing, he drags them off before a magistrate. Because it is the police that has brought these people before the judge, before the magistrate simply signs a remand order more often than not without bothering to listen to the merit of the case, especially the answers. I'm dealing with live situation now so that you understand when we talk about systems, we're not talking about something that works without human beings. Systems works with human beings, but it is what a system tolerates that becomes the culture. The unfortunate reality for the Nigerian is that we have a culture of impunity because the system cannot function under the rule of law. It is designed to be iniquitous. Think about it. Over 300 Nigerians, young boys and girls, were picked up on the streets of Lagos in October after the massacre at Lekki. You now took all these ones. Human beings processed them. Let's talk about the cleanup at Lekki. Human beings, poor people like you, me, you, ordinary human beings, even street cleaners, they were at Lekki toll gate to clean up. Those are human beings servicing a system. On Twitter, on Instagram, on YouTube, everywhere, you had human beings with blood, Nigerians, blood flowing through their veins. They were the ones justifying the massacre, lying on behalf of government. These are not necessarily people who have been paid. There are some people who got paid to do it. Some other persons simply did it instinctively and reflexively because for them, the system must be preserved at all costs. The truth does not matter. Now, how do you run systems without persons when it is systems? When it is persons that runs the system. So when you ask this question that to change the system, how can we change the system without changing? You can't change the personnel. First thing first, change the system. Establish the rule of law so that when people breaks the law, they know that there will be consequences. Without an even-handed judicial system that enforces the law even-handedly, all you have in this space is the rule of man, not the rule of law. The will of men must be enforced in a place where the law does not rule. What we call corruption in Nigeria is not corruption. It is simply us running amok simply because the law does not rule. And you know that even if you are not one of those who wields the powers of government, if you have sufficient monies or influence, you can stop the police from doing his work. If the police does his work, you get the judiciary. It might not even get to court. Anything can happen in a place where impunity rules. So it is not just that we need to change our governance systems. It is important that we change our own mindsets. If we change the Constitution of Nigeria today, without, let me first of all deal with something. I'll come back to that now. If we said we've changed our governance systems, but we do not have the required institutions, we do not build those institutions to ensure that, one, the policeman does his job without fear, the jurists, the magistrates do their jobs without fear. But before you criminalize all these things, have you even addressed and tackled the root of crime, which are essentially the breakdown of the society itself, youth unemployment, addictions? There are several layers of our society that has practically collapsed. So it's not enough to change the system, but changing the system is the first thing we need to do. I have used this analogy before in the past, and it is critical that I use it again, perhaps to round up answering this question. If you have a factory line producing these bottles, it is fitted to make that bottle. You can pray, cast, bind. In fact, you can drink all the Hantu in the world. It will not begin to produce this unless you change the system of production. We are getting what we have been designed to produce. The madness you see around is essentially a function of the fact that everybody knows that the law does not rule. A policeman who is supposed to be the law enforcement officer, law enforcement, is the most lawless. He is the one you find driving one way. But he knows now. He saw Oga. He was there when Oga was giving the order to go and kill someone the other day to the dog. So he knows, and if our policemen were to ever do the job of law enforcement, almost all Nigerian VIPs would be in jail. Because our policemen, especially the ones who provide, you see all those ones wearing blue beret, the amount of crimes that they witness is scary. But what can they do? They are not law enforcement officers. They are the strong arm of the feudal hegemony that governs Nigeria. You plant a mango seed, it's going to give you mango. You can, if you like, pour all the fertilizers in the world. If you like, cast and bind. You won't get oranges from it. So let's get this clear. Yes, our key problem, the first thing we need to deal with is the governance system enshrined in our constitution, but it will not be the magic bullet. We have to examine ourselves, each and every one of us, from the pulpit, especially the pulpit, Muslim and Christian cleric. Don't let me even get into you guys today, but point is this. We have a lot to do. There is no way you are going to change the system without having some sort of truth and reconciliation commission that allows people to give up what they have stolen. And people have stolen humongous amounts of money. Pondeda is fainting. The one that was offering Mike. You see, the shamelessness and brazenness of the stealing is suggestive of a people who do not expect to have to account for their crimes at some point. And this cannot be so. This cannot be so. There must be a point where people pay for their crimes against humanity, because these are clear crimes against humanity. You can speak all you want to those idiots, stupid young men, impressionable goats who are doing all kinds of Yahoo Plus things. But your governors, your senators, they are worst ritualists in broad daylight for your very koro and very before. And you are focusing on small boys doing Yahoo. Maybe those ones are killing 1 or 2 persons. Our rulers are killing multitudes every day with their insatiable greed. So let's leave that alone. We have a lot of issues dealing, obviously, with our systems, but we ourselves, when people begin to open their mouths before a genuine Truth and Reconciliation Commission, you'll be shocked. And of course, people would have to give up what they have stolen. Let's move on to the next question. A gentleman named Akin Gold, he has this question on Facebook. He says, choosing between 2 evils, and they are truly evil, APC, PDP, or insisting on restructuring by pressing the power that be through civil disobedience, that is sit at home. Okay, so the question essentially is, should we be choosing between the 2 evils? Or should we start insisting on restructuring and then be pressing the powers that be through civil disobedience, such as sit at home? He points out the fact that Nadeko achieved a lot during the Babangida era. I should please speak to this. Thank you very much for this question. Let me quickly say this. The level of political education that was available during the military era, the sophistication of the civil society movement, I was a student in that season. And I know as a fact that in that season, the Nigerian Student Union movement was a thing of joy. It was a beauty. Young, idealistic men and women who gave their all. Several paid the supreme price. They did it in the belief that they were dying for a democracy. Not unlike those young men and women who were similarly slaughtered at Lekki Toll Gate. But ours was a more sustained struggle, because if you were born in the late 60s and early 70s, I was born in the late 60s, you lived and knew only military rule. And we were generally tired of it, and Abiola provided the arrowhead. Nigeria was at an inflection point, not unlike where we are today, when this age you refer to was dawning. But the level of political sophistication was a lot higher. Weaponized ignorance and weaponized poverty had not eaten so deep into the body politic. You could depend on a university undergraduate in my time to be focused on idealist pursuits. Few and far were those who came to school with cars. Our focus was essentially graduate, get into the grind in some ways. We were children of SAP. We were hardy. This generation, number one, unlike my generation that had a generation that mentored us, my generation has failed to mentor the ones that we should be relying on to fight these battles. We generally became too focused on picking up the failure of the state. The Nigerian state was failing as we were becoming young men. and women. So we focused on, our parents didn't have to pay so much in school fees or house rent or transport fare or power. We grew up in the era of scarcity, and it hasn't grown any better. So we focused on survival and abandoned the task of nation building, if I may. The campuses also became very unfriendly places to go with murders going on every day. It was like it wasn't bad enough in our own time. It became worse, much more violent. University authorities hardened the space. So we abandoned them more or less to their own fate. So we abandoned the schools to the courts, abandoned the schools to the government, who are more or less infiltrated cults. So the kind of political sophistication that was available in my generation is largely missing in this one. And there are very few outliers. They are now, in this generation, they are finding their voices and they are trying to drag other members of the generation along. I am of the opinion that a campaign of civil disobedience that is not tied to a central idea would fail. You might find pockets of success in Lagos, perhaps in Abuja, a few state capitals in the southern part of Nigeria, but the northern street remains largely disconnected. That's one. But I also believe again that we have a unique opportunity with the 2023 election. And I will explain myself. And it's what I've tried to do through the course of the week-long lecture. Voting PDP or APC shouldn't even be something that is being thought of by anyone with half a brain in this country. Those two have maxed out their cards. But say going beyond that, and we must go beyond that, we must understand that it is not enough that a candidate is not of the PDP or APC for that candidate to be considered by us. It makes no difference who you make the president of Nigeria. If the way the system is structured, if you made any one of your knights in shining armor, from Mogalu to Obi, who they are trying to do GoFund and all of that for, even my brother Yele, anyone, myself, make any one of these persons eminently qualified, make them the president of Nigeria. It changes nothing. They'll probably be kicked out of that place under 3 months. Why do I say this? Beyond the fact of their persons, which will be besmirched within, by the time the Nigerian press and the propagandists and all their influencers and convidenza are done with the person will be looking like something straight out of hell. The key thing is this: what are the ideas that the person brought to the electoral process by which he mobilizes and galvanizes the people? If you mobilize the people around ideas, it goes beyond the person. Ideas like restructuring, excellent ideas, and a few men have been talking about it, but talking is not enough. What does your restructuring look like? How many regions are you suggesting that we should be restructured into? This your party. Is this restructuring a central plank of his manifesto? Is that the basis with which it is campaigning and engaging with the Nigerian people? Because let's be clear about something. No matter how well-intentioned a candidate might be, as long as he is constrained to work with the 1999 Constitution, he has failed before starting. Why do I say so? He has 774 local governments to a federation that is not a federation. He has 36 state governors, emirs. how does it begin the process of convincing the Senate and the House of Rep that were not part of his restructuring mantra? When does he plan to engage them with his agenda? When does he plan to engage with the Nigerian people? If we can't talk about it whilst we are asking for the mandate, why are we talking? Is it any wonder that the same APC that was talking restructuring in 2014, 2015, you now hear them telling you they don't understand the meaning of restructuring? Let's be clear. If you vote another person into the office of the president of Nigeria or any of the offices of the president of Nigeria in this country today, governor, senate, house of assembly, anything you vote the person in, you claim you are voting the person into office to go, and to be clear about this, you are merely exchanging one set of taskmasters for another. Anyone who is genuine about wanting Nigeria to turn around would make a change of the governance system the central plank. Personnel changes will not cut it. It doesn't matter who gets into office. That person has to work with the system, and the system is not designed to serve a people because it is not designed to recognize or grant citizenship. Let's be clear, without changing that system and yoking Nigeria to the rule of law, you're wasting your time. You will merely change one slave master for another one. Now, if I say that, you must also understand that the electoral process legitimizes the street process. If we had a candidate or a party, if we had a party, a platform that has restructuring on its platform, understanding clearly the need for an urgent turnaround for the Nigerian state and the people trapped inside it, and this platform clearly markets itself to the Nigerian people, there is no part of Nigeria today where the people are not suffering. Even the president's own town, his own state, is much more unsafer than Lagos. Is much more unsafer than vast parts of this country. The president cannot even guarantee the security of life and property in his own state. So when you realize the fact that generally across the length and breadth of Nigeria, there is general dissatisfaction. However, this dissatisfaction is not tapped into by anyone who is seeking change. It is tapped into by Boko Haram, is a ready recruitment grant for the bandits, is a ready recruitment grant for all the people who are angry, kidnappers. You come down to the south, you find all sorts of people angry with government. So you find people, all the environmental despoliation that you are witnessing in the Niger Delta, it is the people themselves, but these are responses and reactions to the endemic problem. People are trying to equalize the madness around them. You are telling one person, the law forbids you doing this, but the same law is not only turning a blind eye to the other person, it is facilitating that person doing the wrong thing. So you already know, setting out, that each person has to equalize the madness, but get a candidate who sells clearly across Nigeria, explaining to people the need for the change. And every Nigerian, they might disagree on how to resolve the problem, but we are all generally agreed as to the fact that there is a need for an urgent change. So I believe that if we have such a candidate, if he wins and they do their usual thing, or maybe that party wins power in one state and they do their usual thing, is enough now. When the people know whom they are voted for, you can't rig for an unpopular candidate. And you can only rig when people are not involved. If only 1 point something million is voting in Lagos State, where there must be at least 7 to 8 million adults, and you have not up to 2 million people voting, get 5 million people to the poll in Lagos State, and then let's see how many people MC Mushroom Pikin will be chasing around. How many streets are they going to scatter? When they begin to target neighborhoods where only Igbo people live, because they believe that it is the Igbos that are most likely going to vote against them, it is easy to isolate when you have already labeled. But when it is a situation where it is the generality of the people themselves that have caught on to the need for change, then they are mobilized, then they come out. It is in the apathy that they do their things. If the vote is useless, why are they paying for it? Why are they paying for it if it is useless? So when we sit down and we say it is useless, yes, it is useless when you have candidates without clear agenda that ignites your interest. That is why we are coming out talking. I'm talking now because I need the candidates to understand, and I need us to also understand clearly that this cannot be business as usual. We need to understand the basis for the engagement. Yes, you are the politician. Yes, you have all these nice ideas about restructuring. We've heard it before. Tinubu used to be. In fact, Oshibajo, if you really want to understand the depth of the rot in what they call this federation, go and pick up the cases Oshibajo handled for Lagos State as Attorney General of the Federation. The one on VAT that was abandoned at the Supreme Court. Go and read. Go and pick up that brief. This is an iniquitous space. But the moment the guy got into that place, have you heard him saying anything about restructuring again? Ease of doing business, my foot. Tinubu himself, when was the last time you heard him talking about it? Okay, so when they gain power, they'll do something about it. Bull hawk. Do what? Is when you gain power that you are going to speak to senators, somebody who just spent billions getting into office. How many? Okay, so you want to revert to a parliamentary system, the one you didn't discuss with them when you were campaigning, or the one that the people desire. So if you desire to do what the people want, why are you afraid to talk to the people about what you want? It is the indifference of the people, largely due to the fact that they've been politically snookered. They know that the APC and the PDP are useless evils. But they also have not found anyone in the smaller parties coming out clearly. There is no time better than this one for anyone to come out and seek to take power through the Nigerian people and not through the owners of Nigeria, quote and unquote. The question is, who owns Nigeria? It should be the citizens. But when you don't have citizenship, persons presume to own Nigeria. If we are the owners of Nigeria, then we'll go out to register to vote. We'll persuade the political class, at least those ones who are not irredeemable, of the need to listen to the Nigerian about the need for a turnaround. We cannot continue like this. This is not sustainable. I think to a very large extent I've tried to deal with that. I'm sure that might come up. Anyway, the third question is from a person named JJ Olasunkomi. It's from Instagram. He says, I think revolution should come before voting anybody. If we change president to youth, what of all other arms of government? Will they allow him or her to do as he wants? I've more or less answered this question, really, but there is a part I think I need to speak to. It's the part where the gentleman talks about the need for revolution to come before voting anybody. You know, I think it is important that we take back the meaning of the word revolution so that it is not stigmatized. What is a revolution? We should go to the root of the word itself. It comes from the French word revolver. And don't worry, I don't speak too much French. But I looked up the etymology when I started talking about it. And it means turn around. Now, You can turn something around violently, or you can turn something around devoid of violence. I believe very strongly that violence will be the biggest error made by anyone in pursuit of a turnaround in Nigeria. The Nigerian state has had a long time to become as evil as it is currently, and the state is structured essentially to protect itself, not the citizens. Protect itself and then the rulers. So at any point in time, any attempt by anyone to bring any sort of change to the Nigerian streets is always going to be met with violence. It's been like that all my life. The Nigerian state has never found the grace to tolerate peaceful protests. But if revolutions are about turnarounds, it is possible to gain a revolution through the ballot. This has been because for me, let's be clear, there are two ways to gain the Nigerian revolution. You're either going to carry guns or you are going to carry your ballot. Carrying guns in a multi-ethnic, multi-religious, fractious, already greatly divided and existentially violent place, such as our own, is only a recipe for disaster. Enough people are already carrying guns, and they've not managed to move the needle. It's come at great cost. A lot of innocent people have died, both on the side of the government and on the side of those who are agitating. Are their grievances valid? Certainly. The Nigerian state is iniquitous. So I think that if we have come to the point where we understand clearly that we are better served by pursuing a revolution through the ballot, we have a year. Yeah, we have only until June 30, I believe, to register to vote. But we have a year to prepare ourselves and to force the issues. We need to look beyond the presidency. We need to look to the governors, to the houses of assemblies, to the Senate, to the House of Reps. Look to each and every one of these. But unfortunately, we are not in a place where you can have independent candidacy, and the Nigerian left, we talk a lot, but we don't have political parties. I believe AAC, don't let me say we don't. AAC is one of those I would consider a party of the left. Mr. Mogalu is saying all the right things, but all these people saying these things must get to the point where they understand that we need substance to what they are saying. But we would not have acquired the capacity to dictate the political movement of the country if we have ab initio thrown away the opportunity to become a factor by registering to vote. So first thing first, yes, a revolution is desirable, but it is easier and less violent to try to find that revolution through the electoral process. If we then vote a clear mandate for change, and the system does exactly as it usually would, 1993 all over again, then it becomes easy to go back to the Babangida Nadeko era that you mentioned. The only reason that season was effective is because the people were mobilized. They understood exactly why they were marching. Now, who cares whether if it's a battle between an Atiku and a Tinubu, who cares who wins? Nobody's going to, they can rig themselves out at any point. So hope is usually lost before it can even be kindled. When you look at the quality of candidates and then the quality of the platforms, exactly what is in need for us. That's why I think we should focus on go register to vote. The fourth question is from Baba Fani, Biofani, he came on YouTube, says, my question is, considering the way the system is being wired, coupled with the fraudulent constitution, can our votes right all these wrongs? And do you think submitting a petition against the current system of governance will be the way forward? Number one, there are two questions embedded in this. Can our votes right all this wrong? No, it can't. I'm not selling you snake oil. Our votes will not. It can only begin the process. Voting is an affirmation of a right that the state will prefer you don't have, and that is the right of citizenship. Voting is what a citizen does. The fact that they pay for the votes tells you that that vote is not as useless as they would prefer that we believe that it is. So, as far as I'm concerned, the vote is powerful if we concert it. If we merely registered to vote en masse and we restrict ourselves to a choice between the usual monkeys or even a newer monkey without a platform that explains the kind of change. Say, for instance, I came out today and I say I'm running for the presidency, and you say, deliver it to me, yeah. And then you voted for my party, APC Nigeria Limited. There is already one APC. Oh, sorry, the monkeys. Let's say KKK, all right. Let's say MM. There was that fraudulent one that was called MM as well. Okay. Let's just say XYZ party. And then you voted XYZ party because Dele Farotimi, you trust him, he's talking restructuring, he has talked about restructuring, he's always quoting restructuring. If I gain power without a clear mandate to change it, without a clear plan that I have submitted to all of you before gaining that mandate, the system would ensure, not that I wouldn't even try, even with that mandate, but at least you will know what you voted for. They will know what, if I were to run such a platform, I'll be running, making sure that as many senators, as many House of Reps members, as many governors, one state, winning one state. If a party sympathetic to Mazi Nnamdi Kanu's position gained power in the Southeast and then began to make demands that went through the House of Assembly, let's say they now start doing what Wike is doing without a political agenda beyond self-determination. How do you think it will change again? Sometimes we're too impatient, thinking that this might be a journey that might take 8 years. Let me show you my best case scenario. A candidate comes up and is talking restructuring. Let's understand clearly that restructuring is not particularly understood by those who perceive themselves as having some sort of imaginary advantage from the current system. So you have one election, and in that election, and I say this knowing it to be a fact, in at least 4 out of 6 geopolitical zones in Nigeria today, restructuring is a winning argument. Not just restructuring, a clear return to a people-centered government is a winning strategy. But will it be sufficiently winning enough to gain the presidency? I'm not sure. However, it would be a factor in deciding who gains that presidency. And it would also have taken sufficient political clout out of that election to be a major factor if it governs properly in the next election in 2027. The problem with us is that we look to the life of our country as though it were the life of a man. All of us are actors here. We'll come and we'll go. But we must think beyond our own lifetimes. We must think about the children. The only way to do this is to commit to a program that allows us to educate those who are not going to be on YouTube, on Twitter. They're not going to have the opportunity to watch this. You've watched. Do you believe? If you do, who are you talking to? How are you talking to them? I'm told I speak a lot of big grammar. Yeah, you will understand me. So speak that your own small grammar to those who would understand you. But we simply cannot continue like this. Now, can our votes right all these wrongs? Like I said already, it will not, but it's a start. I'm not selling snake oil, and there is no magic bullet, but it is in your vote that you find your voice. The second part of the question asks, do you think submitting a petition against the current system? Look, if you're submitting a petition, why are you submitting a petition to? Yorubas talk about one fejo ikasuka. You report the wicked to the wicked. Who are you going to report to? Are we going to petition the same evil government? Or is it the United Nations that we're petitioning? Which United Nation? Where was the United Nation? Where is the United Nation in Eritrea? In Ethiopia? In Mozambique? In Mali? In Afghanistan? The United Nations does not care. And the sooner we understand this, the better. They simply do not care. We're the ones who need to talk to ourselves. We are the ones. We need to define exactly what our own agenda is. What are those things we hold there that we believe we need to do? How do we intend to do it? It's not beyond our ken to think through our problems and prefer solutions to our problems. So I'm thinking that one of the reasons why we have stayed as long as we have in the mess we are in is because we have for too long looked to other people to solve our problems, to save us. There was a time we were waiting for the American ambassador to talk before we will know what to do. There was another time we'll be waiting for Britain to speak. If they are speaking to their own enlightened selfish interest, and in some cases, very unenlightened selfish interest. We are the ones who need to define what our own interests are. So the question of petition, I frankly speaking do not believe that there will be anything that will come out of it. Instead of sending a petition to anybody, let's petition ourselves. Let people begin to talk to themselves. Even those of the unhappiest Nigerians I know are those who live outside Nigeria. In spite of the fact that they've escaped our madness, they're still very unhappy. So wherever we are in the world, it is critical that we begin to talk to ourselves. Come on, talk to yourselves. Let's move beyond all these arguments about choosing the thief from your tribe or the thief that pretends to worship God the way you think he should be worshipped, since everybody now happens to be the gatekeeper of heaven. Please, let's talk to ourselves. Petition is not going to do anything. Nobody cares about us. Nobody. And the rest of Africa is beginning to look at us with a lot of derision. It doesn't make any sense. It's we who need to talk to ourselves. Okay, so those were the ones that came in. And then some questions came in 2005, and then a comment from Babatopi. Anyway, so there's a gentleman, Babajide Afolabi on YouTube. He asked, do the people have the political skills and enough political education to vote in this so-called democracy, particularly the disenfranchised and non-professional? Of course not. Of course not. They do not. That is why I said, those of us who do, we have a duty to liberate those who do not, because our own chains are strengthened by their ignorance. I sit down here and I'm speaking Dogon Turenchi, lamenting, talking to you. The key reason why I'm doing it is not for me any longer. I'm going to be 54 my next birthday. I've seen enough of life. I've had a pretty good inning. I've played a good wicket. I've had a good life. But I have children. I don't have a plan B. I don't pray that my children live outside Nigeria. Think about it. All year round, I don't need to have winter clothes, autumn clothes. Clothes is clothes in Nigeria. You wear whatever you wear, whenever you care to wear it. It's the same lovely weather all year round. We are blessed. I don't want to leave this place. That is why I am talking. I want to awaken as many people as I can whilst I'm alive, so that this insanity is not normalized to the point where people even think this is the way it should be. No, it is not meant to be like this. And it will not be like this only if those who know stop profiting from the ignorance of those who do not, but instead seek to liberate those who do not, because make all the money you care to make in the world. When you die, you dead. It be your children in the system you helped to sustain. So it's up to us. If we left it to them, look at the NSAS protest. Those who are being brought to attack the peaceful protesters, all those Adagun, what kind of life do they really have? Think about it. The system has already conditioned them to a life of crime, and then it protects them while they are committing those crimes on behalf of our rulers. But when they step out of line and the crimes were committed freelance, as long as it is not committed against a member of their class, they turn a blind eye to it. They buy them guns before election. They buy them, or who do you think supplied that machete that monkey was holding? It's done. If he was holding a gun, it's done. If they didn't buy it, they offered the money to buy it. So how do they fight such a person? So these people are suffering. His children are probably in private schools because the school system is already dead. So people don't make these connections, and those who know, instead of trying to educate, we mostly just speak over people's head, or we don't think it's any of our businesses. But meanwhile, it's all of our businesses. You essentially have a situation where we have state capture today all over Nigeria because of the indifference of vast majority of those who should be connected to finding solutions, but who have merely abandoned the system to do its own thing. I did it. I was guilty of that. Each one of us became our own private security guards. We're subsidizing governmental irresponsibility. If you are watching this, you probably haven't sent your children. In fact, if you are watching this, I challenge you to think about it. How many of you watching this live as I'm speaking now have your children in government schools? If you are living in Lagos, 98% of you, your children are in one private school or the other. You probably haven't entered a government hospital in forever. That's the failure we are dealing with. So we have a duty to educate those who do not know. The second question I see here is from RCB. How effectively can we mobilize the unlearned for, okay, more or less the same question, the market women, artisans for this political breakthrough? You see, anybody who is going to change Nigeria must have a vision for where he's taking Nigeria to. Because without a vision for where you're taking the people to, you have nothing to sell to them. You cannot, I was reading a piece, I think it was in the Financial Times of London, and the journalist claims, I can't argue because I don't know, the guy claims that To run for the presidency of Nigeria, you require $2 billion. I was like, okay. So here's the thing. How much can anyone who will look to change the Nigerian constitution spend to match those ones? So you can't match them for money. You can only match them for ideas. What is it that the Nigerian people across the length and breadth of Nigeria want? And how do you simplify it in a way that they understand? You're talking to the market woman, and you're able to help the market woman make the connection between the fact that they cannot see a brighter future for their children and the governance system that has ensured that, look at Agitation the other day playing James Bond, finding people outside school hours. Does he know how many people I see, how many children I see outside school hours every day? And I live in one of the more affluent parts of Nigeria, of Lagos. Lekki, you should come and see the number of children roaming around every day. The Lekki Megad, where does he send his children? How many schools have Tinubu ever built in the entire Lekki axis? It is easy to connect the market women and the artisans to the issue if a political platform were to be interested in talking about it. All you're seeing is that it is politics as usual for all of them without exception. When they talk about restructuring, they're talking about it without plans. And then it goes beyond restructuring. If you restructure and then you still have over 10 million children, like 14 million roaming the street, monkey is finding 2. And then we're supposed to be, please, question is, who is talking to the market woman, to the artisan? Who is talking to them, to the unlearned? Who is connecting them to the issues? Who? There was by far more illiteracy in my parents' generation, but as much as they were illiterate, they were by far better educated than the graduate illiterates that we have all over Nigeria, even some on social media arguing the value of criminals in power. So it is the people who presume to put themselves forward for leadership who have refused to lead, who has talked to the market women about the substance, and who is promising them a future that is glowing enough for them to want to stand in the sun, stand in the rain, cast their votes, stand by their votes. Who? What party? It's a hopeless situation when you are looking at, look at the candidates coming out, or Jews or Kalu, the statue, that one that is building statue in Imo, the one in Rochas, Mao grew rich from Red Cross. Criminal. Tinubu. Those are the people who want to be president of Nigeria because it is business as usual. Let someone dare. The third question, same my sister Asibi again. I think Asibi has been very active. Okay, you said, how can we only achieve success in the forthcoming election and sustain patriotism afterwards, with all the Biafra, Odua, etc. nation agenda? Well, Yorubas have a proverb. They say, Amukun, Eruewo, Olori Lenwo, Ewosale. They say to the cripple, the load on your head is unbalanced. The cripple says, why are you looking at my head? Check out my legs and you will understand my imbalance. The people demanding Biafra and those demanding Oodua Republic, they're not acting in a vacuum. They're acting based on genuine grievances, wicked marginalization, systemic division of the lines, where it is easy to know that if I'm an Igbo man, from the point of my birth until the day of my death, I am not going to be treated the same as every other person from every other part of Nigeria. Let's not fool ourselves. If you are not a member of the ruling class in Igbo land, if you are not a member of the political elite or the economic elite, institutionally, you are marginalized. And it is the same all over Nigeria, but the farther you walk away, let's put it this way. Let's say that you're dealing with a colony of bees. You have the queen bee, and all the bees are working for the queen bee. That is the hegemony. If you service the hegemony, you gain advantages within the colony. So if you are someone like Oji Uzokalu, yes, you are Igbo, but you're actually Fulani. You get all those nice judgments that get you out of prison when you should die there. You get to retain your seat as chief whip, and then you get to come back out to insult everybody else because you know that you are no different from every other person who is coming out to say they want to be president. How has Oji Uzokalu become more corrupt than Tinubu or more corrupt than Babalajo? How? He knows the system. Or Okorocha for that matter. I remember the other day Okorocha shouting that all of them know how much they pay INEC for their, each governor paid INEC so amount, and that they should leave him alone with his senatorial ticket. What came out of this? Because they all know. So in reality, the Biafra Oodua conundrum, it arises out of genuine grievances. However, and this is not the first time I've made clear that I have a different response to the madness of the Nigerian state. I cannot stop a person who feels the pains of Nigeria from expressing his grievance as he sees fit. I do not believe that that is the path forward. I don't believe that the Nigerian state is not going to give me self-determination simply because I'm demanding it and I'm shouting. They don't care. If I carry gun, they'll bring more guns. If I'm fighting in my own land, destroying my own people. But those are my own views. I can't stop those who do not share those views from expressing their own opinions the way they have seen fit. It's a marketplace of ideas. However, what I am proposing, and what I have proposed severally, I didn't just start talking about it. No, I went further to codify the thoughts. There is a draft constitution annexed to each of my books, and it's easily downloadable. Go to delifarotimi.com, download it. There's a draft constitution there. It contains the thoughts. There is nothing that the person demanding Oodua Republic or Biafra wants that it does not get by a return to the 1963 Constitution, which was a template for the draft Constitution that we worked on. We are not saying we have the magic wand or there is a silver bullet that makes the problems disappear. But if you substantially restructure Nigeria to allow each region to develop at its own pace without the chokehold of the federal government, which is not, you see that word, federal government, it will tell you federal government. In a federation, the federal government has become bigger than everybody and is now creating local government. It doesn't make sense. So if you stop all that madness and you decentralize power, there is nothing. I've never had the pleasure of sitting down with either Sunday Igboho, who speaks my language, or Mazin Nnamdi Kanu, but I have spoken with a few separatists and self-determination agitators. And as I have said variously in the past, I have myself canvassed the secession of Oodua Republic back in Abacha's days. However, we move in our thinking. I moved. And I know that there is nothing, not a single thing that I would have wanted in that Oodua Republic that I wanted at that time that is not achievable within a true federation. The history of how we became a federation should suffice to let everybody know that our founding fathers, they considered several options of governance, but it took perseverance and negotiation, and they came to the point where they agreed that Nigeria was better off as a federation. Every problem we have had since 1966 has been Nigeria running away from the original agreement that found Nigeria. So yes, I believe that the problems of Oodua Republic and the Biafran people can be substantially addressed by a restructuring of our governance systems. Would it be sufficient or enough? I don't know, but I believe it would have addressed the issue. Now, at the end of the day, self-determination allows secession rights. It accommodates it. If you restructure Nigeria and you allow a season for things to cool down, say 5 years or 10 years, and you say, okay, after 10 years, let's have a referendum. Or let's even say 5 years. Let's have a referendum to decide whether we want to remain in this new arrangement. Is it working? Or should we look to separate and then know how to, maybe we become a confederacy, or maybe we just become more or less like the economic union of economic and EU, more or less. That's a federation. Or maybe we become, look at ECOWAS, for instance. If ECOWAS is properly structured, or rather set up, it's a federation. There are several ways that we can all cooperate and retain our sanities and turn our space around if we would only speak to ourselves. So I do not believe that the problems would disappear, but it will be substantially dealt with if we honestly restructure our country to go back to federalism and to decentralize power. ACB again said, do you have a mentorship program, either exclusively or publicly? Do you think with the issues at hand, you would consider developing any? Frankly speaking, I think I'm already doing that. I think by mentoring, you're talking about trying to, at least, I'm not a pastor. I'm not preaching morality to anyone, far be it from me. But the few ideas I have as to how our country should be run, how our lives should be ordered, I've never been shy to share them, whether that be on Twitter, on Facebook, on Instagram, through interventions such as this one. This one, for instance, I just looked at the level of ignorance attending the discussions about 2023. I looked at the animals, in fact, it's an insult to animals to call some of the people who have shown up saying they want to run. It's an insult to animals to call them animals. I see the kind of people coming out and I hear people discussing personnel changes. That's what led me to decide, look, it's not enough to be urging people to register to vote. I need to do this. Explain to you why you should register. And I think that's mentoring. I never stop. If somebody designs one and asks me to contribute my human resource, I'm always happy to do so. So yeah, if somebody develops one and asks me, I'm happy to volunteer my time and happily too. So it's something I'm happy to do, and I think I'm already doing it. And then there's a gentleman, or maybe a lady, Hero, on YouTube. Don't you think it would be a good idea to crowdfund the candidates that meet the aspiration of the people to prevent hijack by money bags or owners of Nigeria? Let me say this. The day a candidate finds the courage to place these issues on the table, clearly making it the central plank of their platform, if I have to sell the shirt on my back, I will support that candidate. It is not about a support for the candidate, it's about a support for an idea, a central plan. Look, if this party wins power, Nigeria can start its journey to rectitude. Nigerians can look to thinking, informing the planning of their lives. We can truly walk away from this. Look, we've become a reproach amongst nations, a reproach. So if a political party, because it's not just about one office, it's about a political party becoming the engine room for changing our country with a clear-cut policy on education, on health care, on infrastructure development. Look at that shameless Amechi, for instance, the other day. The Chinese are not lending you money again. Can you beat that? We live in a country where you are creating poverty deliberately. We're turning us into beggars. We're going to China to go and beg China. China, the other day I was reading, went to Ghana to take seedlings for cocoa. Very soon you'll be drinking Milo from China because of idiots. So funding a candidate is not going to be a challenge if the candidate has the right program and can galvanize our imagination and mobilize us behind it. Money is not the issue. The number of people who do not even bother to look, it's not about money. It's not about money. Money helps. But I believe that in this election, the key decider will be the person with the idea, not money. Tinubu will spend his money. Atiku will spend. Imagine a contest between those two mega thieves, each one of them seeking to outspend the other. It only becomes a contest in which candidates with good ideas are useless when you and I become useless. If we have armed ourselves with our PVC and we have a party behind which we can kill, of course, it will be an easy slog. Simple reason, all they have to offer is money, and our people can collect their money and still vote their consciences, largely. And it is only when you have voters' apathy that the money becomes effective. You know how many big men don't even step out of their houses to vote? The bulk of them, though, they don't care. People have become so, it's not only the poor that have become alienated from the system. The Nigerian middle class is particularly guilty of it. Completely alienated from the system. So yeah, you can talk about crowdfunding. There is nothing wrong with crowdfunding, but only when we have agreed, what are we funding? What are the ideas we're funding? What are we getting out of it? Crowdfund the person, yeah, so you get there. Look at, people already told all of you that he didn't even have money for fun. One idiot, I remember during that Buhari time, was busy trekking all over the place. Is he still trekking now? If he still has shoes. So there is nothing wrong. There's nothing wrong with raising. I would expect to put my money where my mouth is. If the right candidate comes up, I'll put my money there. If it's only 10,000 naira that I can give, I'll give it. But I'll know that I have a financial stake. Every organization I've ever belonged to, I've always been of the opinion that put your money there. That is what makes you a member. If it's only 50 naira that you have, put it there. When the person who gave 50 million is talking, you have as much right to talk as that person because your money is there. But what ideas are we financing? That is the key. Hopefully we have enough time to galvanize these discussions. The last is a comment from Babatope Aibiowu, one of those old men I went to university with. He says leadership is a comment, it's not a question. He says leadership is not our problem. The main issue is followership. I would say it's a chicken and egg situation. Which came first, the chicken or the egg? I really don't think it is fair to blame the people. I was in university when I first identified the weaponization of ignorance in Nigeria. That was back in 1994. That was the first time I spoke to the weaponization of ignorance. And it was from me looking at the year's budget for education. I think it was about 6%. That was all education got that year, under Abacha. It was his very first budget. And I wrote a piece for AM newspaper in those days. So you find very quickly that the people are only as, they're only as good as the information that they have. Yorubas have a proverb. Let me leave you with that one as a roundup. They say, "Aparo kon ko gaju kon lo, afi to ba gori ebe." I believe it's partridge that we call it, or is it sand grouse? One of those ground organ birds. Yorubas will say that none is taller than the other, except the one that is sat on top of the yam mound. It is where you stand that determines what you see. When Awolowo gained power in Western Nigeria, I believe it was in 1951, he weaponized knowledge. Consciously, the action group went about the business of establishing schools in all the rural villages and towns, massively increasing school enrollment and making free education compulsory and free. This was because he recognized the need to prepare the people's mind against the onslaught of feudalism, which he could see. He could see clearly that that was the enemy that he had to fight. So he weaponized knowledge, and the knowledge industry sprang up in Western Nigeria. And for generations, we got the benefit of that. But in the last 20 to 30 years, particularly in the last 22 years, or let me say particularly in the last 18 of those 22 years, since 2003, there has been no pretense at arming the people against feudalism. If anything, Yoruba land has become a bastion of feudalism because ignorance has been weaponized. So yeah, we can blame the people and talk about the fact that they are the ones who are electing bad leaders. But I disagree. And my disagreement is anchored on the fact that a people are only as good as the information available to them at the point of choice. The Nigerian people have been snookered by a political system that is designed to not only disenfranchise them, but ensure that they are left with a democracy that offers no choice. In a democracy with choice, we should never be talking about PDP again. And after Buhari, nobody should be talking about APC. But it's a democracy without choice. So, all the discourse was about one thief or the other, one platform of armed robbers or the one of the kidnappers, because the people have been left handicapped. So, Baba Topi, it is very easy to point at the people, but the people are only as good as those they follow. Nigeria, unfortunately, is not blessed with leaders. We have rulers, existential creatures who only think in terms of today. They never ever think about tomorrow. They are not caused with the capacity to think beyond their own lifetime. I sit down sometime and when I'm planting a fruit, I'm looking forward to the day I might eat of it. But I also believe that even if I don't eat, my children should eat of it in peace. The Nigerian people are the victims. They are not the ones to blame. I have spent the last 1 hour, 20 minutes trying my best to answer the questions that you have sent in. This discussion will definitely continue. It's just started. We must create the critical mass required to change our situation and turn it around. I will make my second book available for free download from tomorrow. It is critical that you took the time to understand the issues. Because without understanding the issues, we'll continue to dance around and around in circles. But if you don't hear anything else, if you get nothing else from this entire week-long series, let this remain with you. Your votes are not useless, and they are not without value. If they were, they wouldn't be paying for it. Register to vote. Buy the ticket. Who knows? You might just win the lottery. But without the ticket, you lost before the game began. Enjoy the rest of your week. And thanks very much for giving me your time. I don't take it for granted.